Hi, welcome to the Mohua show. My name is Mohua Chinappa and I am an author, entrepreneur and ex-housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken ईमानदारी से. Hi, in today's episode, we have two remarkable guests with us, Chetan Mahajan and Dr. Vandita Dubey, both co-founders of the Himalayan Writing Retreat. Chetan, a Penguin-published author and writing coach, made the bold move to leave the corporate world and fully immerse himself in the world of writing and teaching. On the other hand, Dr. Vandita Dubey, a clinical psychologist and author, has a compelling story of her own. Wait to hear her. She chose to live amidst the Himalayas and has designed a workshop focused on emotional well-being through writing. A lot of writers will relate to that. So let's just start by exploring their journeys and inspirations. And Chetan, so the first question that I want to ask you is that your decision to leave the corporate world and become a full-time author, blogger, is really a bold one. All of us dream, we imagine, but then, to take this leap of faith isn't easy. So what advice would you give to people like me who are considering wanting to leave a city and go in and stay in the hills, but I can't muster all the courage?
Well, I don't know about advice, but I can talk about personal experience. But before I get into answering your question, thanks so much for inviting us. I think it's been fabulous. And we've known each other for many years through the Himalayan Writing Retreat. So it's kind of karmic that the whole cycle is getting complete here. I can talk about my experience and I can talk about my journey. But it has been, it's really about questioning the status quo. Because the status quo is handed to us right from the time we are children. It's part of our conditioning and how we think about things and, definitions of success and money and blah. And so we chase that kind of dream or that kind of aspiration. That is what our ambition pushes us to. And we never question that. And we never step back and say, what do I really want in life? And I think at some stage, sometime in my 40s is when both Vandita and I, we were... Vandita, I think, had seen the light a lot time before me. But that's really when I started to pull back and ask myself, what do I really want in life? Is this the life that I want to live? And when you start asking those bigger questions is when, the options or the alternatives start to emerge and become visible. So that's how it works.
So we have, all of us know about the fact that you won the Indie Blogger Award for Humor in 2017. Your blog, Uncity Blog, what's the story behind this blog and how do you infuse humor into your writings, about life in a Himalayan village?
So the blog was really, outcome of empty time and space because I had quit my job and moved to the mountains. And Vandita, who's a clinical psychologist, still had her practice going to a small extent. I was hoping that kuch consulting will happen or some other, ways of staying busy would happen. But slowly they all dried up. And the thing that I defaulted back to was writing. And so the question was, what would I write? And I had left the city. I had moved to a small village in the mountains. And every day was a new experience. And the people we met were different. And the whole, the whole milieu was completely strange and unusual compared to whatever we had seen in the city. Because when we had moved to the village, it was a very simple life. It was a very slow life. There was no Zomato, Swiggy or Amazon. There still isn't. And there was no place that you could go out to for eating or for a meal. And the kids went to a small Hindi medium, local school. So that experience for the children was also very different. And I started writing all of that down. And that's really how the blog kind of took on a life of its own, because I just had so much that I was seeing that was interesting and different that I wanted to share. About infusing humor, there's no formula. You just see something that's funny and then you try and capture it in your words. And I experimented a lot actually in Uncity. I tried to do a lot of different things and it sort of came naturally. So I don't know if there is really a trick or a tip that I could give as to how to bring humor in.
So Chetan, we all know that you're a writing coach and you've inspired and many authors. I'm one of them. I'm one of the authors who attended the Himalayan writing workshop with a lot of drama, of course, which is on another podcast, maybe. And, I mustered the courage, So, can you tell a little bit about how you help maybe writers who come in there and they have this entire, they have misconceptions about themselves, about their work? How do you help them overcome that?
So that was my journey as well, and so I, built on that, and I've taught myself a lot about both writing as well as the publishing world of India. And I've broken that into a 3 day program. It originally used to be two; it's now becoming three, and from three, it's now stretching and pushing to possibly becoming four because I've learned so much more. But it's really that, and it's also about the act of writing. We think about writing and we want to write and we think about the story and the plot, but we don't actually sit down and put pen to paper. And in the workshop, that's what you do. That is that we actually have people come in and sit and write, and so the writing is one part, but the other program that is a very big program that Vandita leads is it's called the Himalayan Happiness Project, and that is more about emotional well-being, and that's about feeling better about the person that you are, and that's not really just about writing, but that's just about being a happier and more content person. So now, it started off like that, and the creative writing course was the kind of flagship. But today we have about 12, 13 different faculty members, each one a specialist, each teaching something different. So just like Vandita teaches Himalayan happiness, Jerry Pinto leads the writing masterclass, Arundhati Subramaniam teaches poetry, um, so does Rochelle. So there's a lot of different people who teach different skills at the Himalayan writing retreat, and that's as it should be, because it's unrealistic to expect one person to teach everything.
So I have to now shift to Vandita. So, Vandita, you are transitioning from a clinical psychology to co founding the Himalayan Writing Retreat with Chetan, and it's really intriguing. So, how has your background in psychology influenced your approach to writing and, of course, well being in the Himalayas? And, it must have been very tough. Because a lot of people do go into the Himalayas, but I don't know if they really are aware that they can go into a course and meet a clinical psychologist who's going to really help unravel the issues that you've probably faced all your life amidst that entire serene surrounding. So tell us a little bit about how you began and what you did. And of course, Vandita, I'm always in awe of your personality. Always looked up to you. And so you need to spill the beans now.
Thanks, Mahua. It's likewise. I also really admire you and look up to you and all the work that you're doing. It's such interesting stuff that you've done and the books that you've written. So, okay. So in terms of clinical psychology and how and how it relates to writing and how it relates to what we do. Well, see, I think for me, I have always been interested in books. Right now, I mean, all of us grew up reading a lot. That's what we did when we were younger, and I think that's kind of stayed with most of us. So we've had a fascination with books, with stories, with reading, with communicating, and a lot of clinical psychology is also about communicating. Right, it's about communicating your experience, understanding your own experience, and then of course also communicating that to someone else. So I think that so I mean both the processes are quite interconnected. It's not that they're very separate things, writing and what and introspection, right? So in terms of what how all of that came together, it wasn't really. I mean, to begin with, it wasn't really a very thought through thing. It was more of, I'm trained as a clinical psychologist. That's what I've always done. And when we moved, I continued to work, although back in 2015, working online wasn't as easy because it was a very new thing for most people. But of course, over the years, and especially with the pandemic, that has really changed. But writing was something that has been an interest and that became much more of an interest when we were there, and Chetan got into it much more than I did at that point in time. Actually, even before we had moved, I did write for blogs, and somebody had approached me to write a book, and I ended up writing a book on parenting. So that was also kind of in the background, and that's how both came together. After we moved to the mountains, and that's kind of how it's happened.
Yeah, and Vandita has a new book out now, actually, coming up soon. So
Yes, we're going to come to that. Absolutely, we're going to come to that, Chetan. And we're also going to come to the book, about on parenting. But before that, you've designed a workshop on emotional well-being through writing. So what are the techniques or practices do you incorporate in this workshop to help participants enhance, their emotional well-being? So there must be a process, to this entire thing. Would you like to share with some of our listeners who probably would like to come in and, be a part of it, and they are probably intimidated? Because to write it all down, it takes, a lot of courage, right, to bleed on paper, as we know. So could you share a little bit about that, Vandita?
Sure, sure. So the workshop has gone through a little bit of an evolution. Initially, it was much more of a workshop that did focus a lot on writing in terms of basically we were using writing as a tool for self reflection, for introspection, and like you rightly said, it is kind of difficult, and it's a difficult process. Now I just wanted to let you know, but now the version of that we have is now called the Himalayan Happiness Project, where we continue to do a lot of course, introspection and self-reflection and working through different thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and all of that. But in addition to that, we also do a little bit more of some creative exercises and things like that. But so basically, the program is designed to help each individual look inwards. There is, of course, the endeavor is to create a safe space where this can happen, and also a lot of the exercises are structured, so there is a sense of that things will be contained. It's not that you start looking at something which is very difficult for you and then we just leave it like that. So the effort is that it's done in a somewhat contained and controlled manner, so that you can each person can dig in as much as they feel comfortable doing, and there is no there are no have tos. There is no absolute requirement that you have to do a particular exercise or do it in a particular way or anything like that. So there is freedom there, and so yes, we are dealing with sometimes difficult emotion and memories and experiences and that. But at the same time, then we also, like in this version, we also try to incorporate a little bit of lightness and levity and have some more fun, and so we now have a bit more of a couple of different exercises other than writing.
So your book, Vandita, Parenting in the Age of Sexposure, I think it's a book that's extremely relevant in today's time and age, because there are many precocious kids all around. It's a new generation, and it addresses a very crucial topic, So what inspired you to write this book? And of course, you have children of your own, So how did you think and you came into this entire idea, and what are the key takeaways for parents navigating this entire digital age where everything is at the click of a button, and everybody is so exposed to sexual content regularly at the tip of a at the scroll of a finger. So, and we come from a different time because all these things were not there for us. So how do you deal with this entire thing, and what does the book do for parents who are going through uncomfortable situation with their growing children?
So the book is, so there are some topics and themes there which are regardless of the times that we live in, as in the sense of regardless of the technology, the evolution of technology, right? So things around sexuality and sexual orientation. So some of it is just basic stuff which exists and has existed always, but we've just not talked about it much in our culture and society, and even in many other places, but definitely in India, a lot of this is not talked about. So some of it is just kind of establishing the what is kind of in the whole range of what all is normal, right? There is no one normal, but there are many variations to normal. So that was one part of it. But the other part of it is, yes, dealing with technology and how technology is evolving and what it's doing in terms of exposure. So how I came to writing it was actually I used to write a blog, and there is this community called Gurgaon Moms that asked me to write a blog article for them, which I titled "Talking to Children About Sex," right? And somebody read that. A publisher, a commissioning editor from a publishing house happened to read it, and she contacted me and said, "We're doing this series on parenting. Would you be interested in on working on a book for us?" So it was commissioned in that sense, and so I said, "Sure." I mean, that topic is very interesting to me, and yes, I mean, one, of course, I've worked in this area before. I've worked in the area of child sexual abuse prevention and treatment and things. So, I mean, that interest has always been there. But then also as a parent, and there's always this concern about the exposure that kids have to content that is not yet, they're not mature enough to handle. And, so that's how, I was interested in it, and I ended up writing the book. And yeah.
Your upcoming book, Against the Tide, lessons from the journeys of those who've left the 9 to 5 in search of meaning. It sounds extremely intriguing because I'm sure so many of us, and especially after the pandemic, we've really questioned, what is life? What is it that we need to pursue? So what stories or insights can readers expect from this book, and how do these stories inspire your own journey in the Himalayas?
Right. So this book happened because yes, we made the journey, but then while we were doing that, before, during, and after, and even now, we meet a lot of people who've kind of made the same similar transition, not always the same, but similar kind of transition. And so this book is really based on my interviews with about 25 odd people and a few other stories that I've heard and people I know. So it's based on the experiences of all of these people, and the idea of the book is to really not just put forward the stories, but to look at the themes as to what happens, what leads somebody to a point where they may be questioning what they're doing in terms of their personal and or professional lives, and then how how to think about it and how to move beyond. What are the challenges? So again, because it's based a lot on these people's experiences, it is about how the journey has been for them in terms of their move, and how the challenges they faced, and how they've tried to go about addressing those challenges, and what life looks like now, and so on. But a lot of it is actually, centered around work and the importance of work in our lives, and what work means to different people, and what it can mean, like the various, definitions of work. What we're doing right now is also work, right? But a lot of times we just look at work as in the paid job that you do, which is one kind of work, and a lot of people get stuck in that. But it's also about just looking and redefining work, and looking at what gives one joy in one's work, and making that transition to that.
So, as an expert psychologist and featured on the YouTube channel Zen Brain, what kind of topics, advice do you typically share with the audience, and how has this platform really allowed you to reach a wider audience, with your insights, on well-being?
The Zen Brain.
Yes.
So Zen Brain it's a very, very interesting and important platform where Shruti is able to really reach out to a lot of people with, one is a lot of factual information around mental health and mental illnesses, and then also kind of addressing prejudice, addressing misconceptions, like I said, bringing factual information. So it's not just me, but she has a lot of other experts that she interviews on that channel. And, so all of us, and people who've gone through some of these issues themselves, people who've been diagnosed with certain mental illnesses or have struggled with certain issues, so they also come, she's interviewed them, and they're also there on the channel. So, I mean, it's a great way. For me, it's been a great way to reach out to people and share whatever I know in terms of, as a professional, and also as somebody who's seen people, who knows people who've gone through mental health issues. So yeah, it just widens who all you can reach.
So coming back to Chetan, tell us about how many years you're completing now. And, both of you are one of, the two very, very special people in my life. Tell me a little bit about the Himalayan writing workshop and how many years you guys are completing and what all are in the plans ahead, and a little bit about your daily lives. Yeah. I mean, for people like us who are like really braving the traffic in a city like Bangalore, share with us what does your morning, day, and night look like. Yeah.
Well, so we just turning 7 on the 14th of October 2023.
Congratulations. So the Himalayan Writing Workshop turns 7 this October. And great.
Yeah, so we did our very first workshop on the 14th to 16th of October 2016. And it was just a lark of an idea. It was just a, hawa mein, just a complete fable. And so we didn't have a place or anything. And a friend had a biggish bungalow. So I rented the bungalow and I put it out there saying we are doing a writing workshop in the Himalayas. And 7 brave people showed up. And we went ahead and did the workshop, and they said, it was good fun and we liked it, and so on. And that was really what kind of set it off. But from there now, in 2018, we started and built our own place. And now we've got a huge bunch of other faculty members, and we have people coming in from abroad. So it's become quite a thing compared to, that very, very fledgling idea with which we started. In terms of daily life, it's not really a fixture. Yeah, there are days when there are no workshops and there's nothing much going on. On those days, we just relax, look at the sunrise, take in the bird song early in the morning and just listen to the silence. That's a big part of it. We have 2 dogs. So we'll go out for a walk with them early in the morning or late in the morning if it's winter time. And when there are workshops on, then it's a different level of activity. Then there's, a very strong regimen right from the beginning till the end. And our whole day goes into spending time with people. But both Vandita and I do love to both read and write. So when we are not conducting workshops, we are doing those 2 things. We're reading, we're writing. And what we write tends to be very, very different. I mean, I'll write anything. I'll write articles. I'll write short stories. I'll try and do whatever it is that tickles me. Vandita is usually working on more long-term projects like the, Against the Tide project that she's working on, usually non-fiction. But she reads a lot more than I do. I think I write a lot more than she does. So it kind of works out. But it's nice to just be here. And we feel that it's getting very busy and crowded where we live. So I can't imagine Bangalore, man. It's nice to visit, but living in a big city will be a challenge.
So thank you so much, Chetan and Vandita, for being on today's episode, and wishing you lots and lots of luck and success, for all your future endeavors. You know that you have one student all the time for the rest of her life, knowing that she has her room fixed, in the Himalayan Writing Workshop, and she will keep coming back, which is me. And for all our listeners here, we want you to know that if you have that entire bug of wanting to write, please reach out to Chetan Mahajan and Dr. Vandita Dubey, and you have the Himalayan Writing Workshop. It changed my life, and I know it can change yours. Thank you so much for being on today's episode.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk ईमानदारी से.